All right, what is up, everyone? I hope you're all having a great day today. Yes, I'm wearing a work shirt with PJ bottoms, but you're just going to have to allow that for this video because I am here to talk about the one and only Borderlands 4. Yes, there has been a shit ton of controversy revolving around this game, and for pretty good reason, in my opinion. They got Randy Pitchford, the director of this game, going crazy online, crashing out at fans. It's kind of funny, to be honest, because he almost had a great game on his hands. But in my honest opinion, there's just a few things that are limiting Borderlands 4, and I'm going to talk about those here today. So, like I just said, and if you can see the title of this video, I think Borderlands was very close to being a great game, but it just slightly missed the mark. And so I'm going to start with the negatives that I have from Borderlands, and then maybe you can see a clearer picture of why I think this game just can't be given the great status, even though it's probably the best Borderlands game since Borderlands 1. Because, as most of you know, if you're fans of Borderlands 2 was an okay game, and then Borderlands 3 was a straight pile of fucking steamy dog shit. So at least we got that. But I will say there are some issues that I just can't overlook. And just a quick disclaimer, I had not captured any of my own gameplay for Borderlands 4 because I bought it on Xbox in order to game share with my buddy, and I don't have a capture card. So all the gameplay you're going to see in this video is from other creators, and I'll try to give credit where credit is due. I'll leave their watermarks in the videos, or I'll link it in the description below if you want to take a look at any of those people's videos. So, like most of you have probably heard, if you're, locked in on video games at all, the performance in Borderlands 4 is downright ass, dude. So that is probably my main concern with this game, and I'm sure most people feel the same way. The thing is, I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about how poor the performance is on console. I've seen a lot of the PC guys talking about it, and rightfully so, because you can't even run this thing on like the best rig you could ever think of. You literally need a fucking NASA computer to run this game. But console performance has been just as ass, if not worse. I play on Xbox. This game struggles to run at 30 FPS. I don't know how you have a game like Borderlands, which is like more of a cartoony game and less graphic intensive, be running so shit. Why is there a performance mode and a quality mode in a Borderlands game? I don't know, man. It kind of just makes no sense. I feel like Randy Pitchford doing all this damage control, telling people to make their own fucking programming is like ridiculous. You've been doing this for fucking years, man. You should know what you're doing. You should be able to optimize the game. You should have said, guys, we heard your concerns, and we're going to work on it and hopefully get some patches out soon. But obviously he did the complete opposite, started shitting on everyone. So yeah, the performance is straight trash, especially if you try to play co-op in this game, which obviously I bought this game to play co-op. Personally, I don't really enjoy Borderlands games if I don't play co-op. If I'm playing solo, it's not as fun. So I tend to really lean into that friend play, right? And wow, if you're playing with friends, dude, this game barely runs. You take one shot, you see a couple enemies, you're fucking getting 10 frames per second. You got potential crashes. Actually, I've gotten a few crashes. And yeah, it's just downright horrible, and they need to fix that ASAP, and it's really, really affecting my enjoyment of the game at this point, because you quite literally cannot go more than 10 minutes without experiencing some kind of stutter, frame rate drop or frozen screen or whatnot. So they really need to fix that ASAP. Right, now that I'm done ranting about, the performance and the frame rates and all that when it comes to Borderlands 4, there are some other legitimate game reasons why I don't like it, both narratively and, just gameplay-wise. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I want to start with the story. Dude, the story is so bleh, I couldn't even tell you what's going on. And side note before I continue with the story, but they do something that really pisses me off in games, is when they do this thing where when you have to progress a quest or you start a new quest, you got to listen to some bum talk for like 5 minutes, and it won't tell you where the next location you have to go is until they're done talking. And man, Borderlands 4 is the absolute goat of doing this. This shit is like pure rage bait in video game form, because you cannot progress a quest without listening to some stupid bum talk about what they're doing, and the dialogue just lasts forever, man. You're waiting for like 5 to 10 minutes sometimes, waiting for a guy to complete his sentence so that you could learn where to go next. And it boggles my mind because Borderlands 1 had this figured out. If you started talking to a guy to progress a quest or start a quest, it would instantly put the marker on your map and you could just go to that and you would just hear the guy talking in the background, like on the radio. But for some reason, Borderlands 4 doesn't have this, and I have no idea why, because I straight up sometimes I honestly just want to shut the game off because you'll be waiting for an NPC to get to a location to progress the quest or, start a new quest, and he's walking at the speed of a turtle while you're just sitting there jumping around waiting for 10 minutes for him to get there and stop talking, which is honestly just extremely infuriating. But anyway, when I think of Borderlands, I always think of story. Back in the day, you had all these amazing characters, all these funny and quirky characters like, TK Baja, you got Claptrap, and it just lends itself to the atmosphere of the game and gives it like a real identity that you can relate to and you can enjoy. It's just the best way I can describe it is just vibes. Like it's just got the best vibes. And I feel like with Borderlands 4, it kind of feels like they're trying really hard to be Borderlands 1, but they just don't have the talent in writing to actually be Borderlands 1 or compete with what Borderlands 1 was doing, because all the jokes fall flat. Nothing's really funny. I feel like the dialogue is just corny, and not corny in a good way, corny in like a really fucking cringe way. And I noticed that heavily playing this game. And I feel like if you play the game, you'll know this too. This is just how it feels. So that's one thing I really don't like. Now, when it comes to the actual narrative of the game, dude, I don't even know what's going on. It's basically just a non-factor for me. It has never really been a huge factor like the actual narrative. It's not like I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? But yeah, this one's just in the toilet for me. I don't even care. I'm really only playing this game for the gameplay at this point. Dialogue sucks, story sucks. Now, I'm almost done ranting on Borderlands 4, but there is one last thing I want to talk about, and it is the menus. And I just really do not like the menus, and I think they're extremely cluttered, extremely confusing to navigate. There's just so much going on when it comes to your weapons, your shield, the other items that buff your guy, all the perks. There's so many perks. There's 3 types of builds, but in that build, you got to choose one type of ultimate, and then under that ultimate, there's 2 more big perks that you can use that have their own skill trees. There's just a lot going on, and it's just not my cup of tea personally when it comes to skill trees. I like things to be a little bit more simple, but that doesn't really hurt the game too much. It's just more of, a nitpick in my opinion. All right, now I could finally talk about what I think makes this game almost great, because there is a lot here. There is a lot of good here. It is, like I said before, probably the best Borderlands we had since Borderlands 1. And yeah, one of the main reasons for that is just the combat and the gameplay in general. The combat is smooth, the movement is smooth. When the game's running well and you're at hitting actually your 30 or 60 frames per second, it feels really good. The combat is hard hitting, it's visceral, there's a lot of gore, which I really like. When you hit your shots, you get those crits popping up on your screen. It gives you a really nice dopamine effect, which is what you want from looter shooters in general. That's why Destiny is so successful, and that's why Borderlands originally was so successful as well. The combat just hits great. The movement is really smooth. It's really intuitive. You feel like you're actually, going off. You feel like you're in this world, this fantasy world, doing your thing. And I can't really complain about the combat much at all. All of the elementals that combine with your weapons and all types of weapons go together really well. Everything is viable, and that's one thing you need to ask for from a looter shooter, is that, a lot of playstyles are viable, and I feel like in Borderlands 4 they absolutely nailed that aspect. Every single playstyle can be viable if you have the right stuff, and, nothing much to say about the combat. It's great, and that's one of the main reasons why it's still almost a great game. Now, another reason Borderlands 4 is a good game, in my opinion, it has been Borderlands' bread and butter since the beginning, and that is the co-op and the team play. Every single Borderlands release, it could have been ass, but the fact that you could play with friends always made it better, and that's the same thing with this game. Even though the gameplay is good and all that other stuff, it wouldn't be the same without playing with friends. I honestly feel like if I wasn't playing with my buddies, I probably wouldn't have even bought the game, to be honest. And That's saying something for the reputation of Borderlands over the last few years. But anyway, the co-op aspect is great. Other than the performance and, the shitty frame drops, it's fantastic. You have fun, there's vibes, everything's good when it comes to the co-op aspect of Borderlands. Now, another thing that's really important with Borderlands is the setting, the biomes. I always thought Borderlands 1 was my favorite. The desert biomes are always great. Those are always the things I like. And I think the biomes in Borderlands 4 are also really good. Even, the ones that we haven't seen before, like the first area of Kairos or whatever it's called, the lush green little forest area with some hills and mountains. I think it's really good. I think it's a nice change of pace and a nice change of scenery. But I'll always love the desert biome, and Borderlands 4 does have that. So I was getting worried for a minute. I was like, yo, are we not going to get a desert biome? But we ended up getting it, and it's probably the best location in the game. And I'm just glad that they did that. I'm glad they have another desert biome because it wouldn't have hit the same. But like I said, the biomes and the setting in Borderlands 4 is very good, and I don't have much to complain about in that regard. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which is a bit more of a small thing, but the customization. I thought the customization in Borderlands 4 was actually really well done. I can't remember if it was in previous versions of the game, to be honest, but the way they did it in Borderlands 4 is really good. It's pretty much all cosmetic. Obviously, I'm talking about the appearance of your character, not any of your weapons or builds. But when it comes to the appearance of your character, the appearance of your like speeder bike that you have, I think it's all really well done. It just gives you that extra thing to grind for and just makes it a lot more interactive and immersive, in my opinion, always when there's customization elements in a video game. And I think Borderlands 4 just does it really well. And that's about it. So, guys, I really don't have much else to say about Borderlands 4. I'm going to give it a rating, and I'd probably give it a good 7.5 out of 10. So, in order for it to be great, it would have to be an 8 out of 10 at least, or I cannot call it a great game. And it just misses the mark, like I said. But let me know what you guys are feeling. Do you guys love Borderlands? Do you hate Borderlands? What are you feeling about it? How are the performance issues affecting you? If you like this type of content, like, subscribe. Peace.